Hi everybody, this is Starr with H&S Designs Now. I hope you guys are having a good day, good week. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how I have made this Eye of Jasper ring. That's what I've named it. I used 18 gauge silver plated wire as well as a 26 gauge brushed silver wire to give a little bit of a different look to it. And of course, jasper beads in there and a couple of just clear seed beads. So if you would like to learn and see how I made this ring, just stay tuned. So here are a few items that I received recently in kind of a grab goodie bag of reclaimed jewelry items that I plan to reuse and remake into something new. And we're going to start off with the watch right here. Excuse me. I do have to replace the battery in it because if you can tell, it's not ticking. But I do like the detail, the design, and the side. I think what I'm probably going to do is end up taking the straps right here off and then making a wire wrapped band for it, and then it'll be an absolutely gorgeous, watch that'll be a very unique thing. So that'll be something that you can keep a lookout for in the future. Another piece that I found that it's supposed to be a pendant, and you can tell it has 4 dolphins in here. And it's really pretty. I really, really like it. But and I like how it is right here, but I want to do something different with it. And I'm just noticing, if you see right here, that one of the fins is actually broken off. And I'm only just now realizing it as I'm showing it to you. But that's the beauty about getting reclaimed jewelry items, is because some things might be broke off like this and you can remake it into something brand spanking new. So it'll probably still end up being a pendant, but I'm going to do some kind of wire wrapping or something to go along with it to change it up, because it is a really pretty piece. But I want to make it that much more bam, pow, And then there's this. I received this one single heart earring, and of course it's got a little gemstone right there. And I think what I'll probably end up doing is, of course, taking the hook off right here, do some type of wire wrapping around it, maybe set a stone in here or something like that, and it'll be a nice little pendant. I think it'll turn out really, really nice. So, again, from an earring, and it's going to be something else. But it's just really pretty. I like how it looks. And then the last piece I have right here, you can tell this is supposed to be a pendant, quite large, quite large. The back of it, you can see, is hollow. There's nothing in here. I think what I may just do is either take some resin or Mod Podge, Dimensional Magic, something like that, to fill it, which of course you can see it's quite deep. It'll probably take quite a bit, but I might just fill it with some kind of slightly colored resin, maybe even make it a faux opal. I'm not entirely sure just yet, but I think that this would end up being a very, very pretty piece. And I may not do the opal. I may just put some little things in there, just a little of this, a little of that, or something, just to make it slightly different. I might do a wire wrapping around it. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do yet. So, if anybody has any thoughts and ideas, I almost forgot about this. This right here, this earring. It's a single earring. It kind of made me sad that it's all by itself. I do like it. It's very pretty. I like the paddles here. I think I could definitely reuse those. And you've got some other paddles over here on the side that are slightly different. And then, of course, I'm not sure if these stones are real or not. But we can see in the future, you see it looks pretty much exactly the same on both sides. But I do want to do something with this. Take it apart somehow, make it into something new. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with that one. But if anybody has any thoughts, suggestions on things to do with these, definitely leave those in the comment section below. I would definitely love to hear about it, especially what to do with this earring and the dolphins. Definitely want to hear that. And then, of course, yeah, any ideas on things to fill this with, because I think that would be gorgeous. It's gorgeous on this side. I do love it. But that way, if it flips around, you want something right there. So let's figure out something. So any ideas for any of these is definitely welcome. I would love to hear your ideas because I'm only one person. I'm only going to be able to come up with so many ideas. So definitely bring it on. Would love to hear about it. So now let's get to our project. Okay, so now for our materials, we will be using 18 gauge silver plated silver wire. Of course, I use the Power Wire brand. I just like it. And then also a 26 gauge. I'm going to use a brushed silver instead of the bright silver, so it has a little bit of a difference to it. I'm going to be using these three Jasper beads. You see the larger one has a little bit more of a matte finish compared to these smaller ones. They're a little bit shinier. Thought that it would look fairly nice together. Figure we were going to try to put them in line about like that. We're going to attempt to make a ring today. So for our tools, of course, you will need your mandrel. I do have one that has a beveled spot to it, so yours does not have to. I do have one that does not have a bevel to it. You can have your nylon jaw pliers or your flat nose pliers handy. I like to use either one of these when you're doing your wrapping to flatten that wire down really nice, so it just kind of looks much better. Of course, you will need your clippers. I always forget what they're called. And then also either your chain nose pliers or a good pair of bent nose pliers. I prefer the bent nose pliers just because they're so much smaller. You can tell the difference in the two in the size of them. Just they get into such a smaller area. I plan on at some point buying a set of needle nose or needle chain nose, something like that, pliers, but just one day. It won't happen today. So now that we've got all this, let's go ahead and get our materials ready and get started. All right, so I took my 18 gauge silver plated silver wire. I cut 3 sections of 10 inches each, and you will probably want 10 inches. If you cut more, no big deal. If you cut more, that's okay, because the way that I have this design going on in my head, it may be easier to do more. But if you're expecting to make a smaller ring, you probably won't want much more than 10 inches. So I do have big fingers. I have sausage fingers, and I plan to make this to fit my ring finger. My ring finger is a size 9. So hopefully, and I have not made this ring before, so you are making this ring with me. You are watching me make this ring. So I'm hoping that this will be more than enough to make a size 9 ring and to get the beads in a nice little pattern right on top of my finger, but we shall see. So I have 3 sections of 10 inches of 18 gauge wire. I'm going to pull off about, excuse me, about an arm's length, a full wingspan of the 26 gauge brushed silver. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that really quickly. And you can tell I've never used this before because I have to find my end. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to find this and I'll be right back. All right, so I got my my 26 gauge undone. I pulled off a little more than a full arm span, and then I also found my center. This is my center spot. Excuse me. And now I'm going to do is on this part right here, you're going to start about in the middle of your wire. And what you're going to do is you're going to weave however much over and however much over, okay? Enough to make your band. Now on this, you can do any type of weaving that you so choose. But I think I'm going to be doing a fairly thick weave. I haven't 100% decided which weave I want to do yet, but we will just kind of go with it. So I start off with making a coil around one wire. Then I bring in my next wire right under it, get it fairly close, and make sure that the base wires are fairly even with each other. And then make sure you take that same wire and not the other side, okay? And now you're going to bring it down under the second wire between those two. And then come in with your third. Again, make sure it's about evened up. Bring it up to it. And underneath and in between. And there you go. Whoops, and see, then it moves. So we're just gonna squish it on over there. Now I'm gonna bring it back up between the first two and down between the last two again, up over the first between the two and down. So there is the start of my wrapping. And from this point, what I believe I'm going to do is, if I can find it, I'm going to use my little handy dandy spring clamp to get my wires to stay put. Because if you make rings, you know how this can be. Now at this point, something that you can do is you can take your pliers and you can squish it down really nice and tight, okay? So that's going to be the main purpose of having either your needle nose, chain nose, or bent tip pliers like this. So now we come up and around this first wire, and you want to make sure that your base wires are staying where you can tell which one is which, okay? So now it's coming, now the wire is coming down. So you want to come back up between the last, you want to go around the middle wire, push it nice and down. So that's all I'm doing. And then back up, making a very dense weave right here. I want this ring to be a very dense one. So now this one came back up, but I'm going to go back between these two. I'm pretty much just wrapping once around each wire. And then back up. So you can have a rough idea of the weave that I chose. I don't know. I think this one might be a modified sumac weave. I'm not sure exactly what the name of it is. But at this point, this is where I'm going to use my flat nose pliers, but you can always use your nylon jaw. Squish that down really good. Okay, and that gets the wrapping wire, the weaving wire, to lay really nice against your base wires. Whoops, and then that happens, but that's okay. Okay, and there we go. All right, so I'm going to keep going on this so that way it kind of cuts down on my time a little bit, and I will meet you back here when I get the rest of it done. All right, so I found the center of my wire. I had actually, to be honest, I had actually started on a weave, and I didn't particularly like how it was coming out, so I took my wrapping wire off of my base wires and said, I'm going to start this over again. So I got a whole new piece of my 26 gauge wrapping wire. Now when you take this off of the spool, it is going to kind of curl up back into the spool shape. So always make sure you run your hand over it a few times. It warms up the wire, and it kind of gets it where it's, you know, manageable and fairly straight. So I'm going to come in to the center of my wire, or as close to the center as I can. And I'm going to wrap one time. And I like to go all the way around, so it kind of makes actually a 1.5 rotations. But that's okay, because we can actually work that into our design for our band, which, like I said, I started on it and I didn't like how it was going, so I decided I was going to redo it. So still haven't 100% decided. You know, we're kind of just working together. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring this over. We're going to wrap once all the way around both of these. And then we're going to come in, we're going to bring our third wire in. And then again, we're going to bring this up and over. Okay, so now it's going to come in, and actually I think I'm going to come in on a second time around the top two real quick. And then come in between the top two and come down twice around the bottom two. And then, and actually then this needs to come between the bottom and top, so it does the same thing as that beginning of that one. So there is the beginning of our pattern. At this point, I will use my handy dandy, and I'm going to kind of straighten these up because they're crooked. I like to have very straight wires. I'm strange. I like to be in control of my wire and not have the wire be in control of me. But this helps to keep the wire straight. It also gives me a little something extra to kind of hold on to in my hand as I'm working. This is absolutely not a requirement. If you do not have a small spring clamp like this, you can just hold on to your wires with your hand. It's no big deal. So now that I've got one rotation sync by itself on this very bottom wire, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to do another 2 on the bottom. I'm going to come between those bottom 2. And then I'm going to do 2 rotations around the top 2, keeping it fairly nice and tight. And this middle wire does not want to cooperate. There we go. Okay. Push it down really nice and tight. And then another single rotation around the top. Okay. And again, I'm going to come between the bottom 2 twice. And then back between the top 2. Whoop. There we go. And then single rotation. Another 2. Whoop. And as you work, you can see my wire is kind of getting tangled up just a little bit. You can stop, straighten this out with your hand just a little bit, and that kind of gets it back how you need it and how you want it. So, and you can see, if you could see right there, I did start to mess up a little bit. There we go. I thread this right here like this when it should be, let's see, what was I doing? Right here. I need 2 right here. Now this one goes all the way around and between the bottom 2, but around the top 2. And then a single around the top base wire. Now I'm going to come in with my nylon jaw. Sometimes I use my flat nose instead, and I just compress them down really well, and that gets this weaving wire to be nice and tight and flat on the base wires. So there's my weave so far, and just going to keep going. 2, press them down, then another 2, and then a single, another 2. And I think I started off just slightly different from the way I'm doing it now, and that's usually how it happens with me. But like I said, you do not have to use the same pattern of wire wrapping that I am using. You can use whichever and whatever that you so choose to use. A single around the top, and then back to another 2 around the top, another 2 around the bottom, single one around the bottom, 2 around the bottom, and if my camera is not staying in focus, I do apologize. I'm still very much learning how to make tutorials, how to record them, how my camera works, because I do use my cell phone like many others do, and so it's a whole learning process. So I'm trying to also stay mindful to keep my hands and my work on the camera, because that can be quite a difficult thing as well. Luckily, I do have a new setup compared to what I was doing, so it helps quite a bit. I do have my camera, my cell phone, a good bit closer to the table than I did before. So that helps quite a bit. It helps me to stay on camera better, much better. And I'm gonna do 2, a single, and then another 2. Alright, and again, I'm gonna use something to flatten this down really well. So that's what my weaving of the band is going to be looking like. So I think I'm going to go off camera now, and I think I'm going to finish up this part, do just a little bit more on this side, and then do more on this other side, and then I will meet you right back here so we can get on and do the next portion of our weaving and add our beads. Alright, so I'm back. I got this finished, and one thing I did do, I had these cute little long, thin Postit notes, and I simply put one all the way around my finger right here to measure, and this is exactly how long my finger is, which just happens, or how diameter, something like that. This is the diameter of my finger, my ring finger right here, and it is 2.5 inches almost exactly. And on the weaving, I have 2 inches, so I wanted to leave the other half of an inch so that we could actually include our beads on there. So at this point, if you want, you can actually continue with this wrapping or whichever kind that you chose, or you can do something a little different, and that's what I'll be doing. And actually, if you look really closely, this is actually the back side of our weave, and you can see it looks slightly different, especially if you look at the end pieces. They're coming around, whereas on this side, this is the side that you more than likely want to be sticking out. You also want to make sure you compress it, push it together really well. So I'll probably have a little less than 2 inches on here, but that is okay. So from this point, you can do a different weave, like I said. And I think on either side, what I'll be doing is I will be doing what I call a pyramid weave. Or a fire weave, you could, I guess, call it. I did I'm going to do 2 wraps on the very bottom wire, 2 on both, and then I'm going to come in between, do 2 on these top 2, another 2 on just the top, okay, and then come back, 2 on the top 2. Again, you do want to make sure you take your fingers and your nails, you can press them in really well. Another 2 on the bottom, 2 on the individual last one. Okay, so that's kind of how it's looking. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to do very much. I'm only going to do about there and maybe like to there or something like that. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be right back. All right, so I've got about a 1/2 inch on either side with what I call the I don't know what kind, what you would name the weave. However, I've got it done on either side, similar to what's in the middle, but slightly different. Hopefully you can tell what it is, how it is. So now, ooh, there goes my beads. Now we will take the mandrel and we will put it on there at a size 9. We will turn it. And you will want to have one going down and one going up. So get the wrapping wires out of the way, and up and down. And the way that we're going to have to do it, the way we're going to need to do it, is we're going to have to take where this style begins, which is right here. And the way that you can tell is because there's not as much of a gap here as there is here in, okay, because there's extra wraps. So we got to take that part, and we're going to have to open it a little bit more. And I'm going to turn it up. Okay. So you're going to create less of a gap right here than there was. So that, and then I'm actually going to take it and I'm going to turn this part out. And so now I am truly seeing I do not have enough of this weave going on. So however many extra that I will do, which is probably, let's see, finish this one and then one on that side, one on this side, probably do one on that side, and then probably end. So I'll do the same amount on this side as well, and I'll meet you back here again. Alright guys, so I kept on, I did the rest of it on this side, and then did some more on this side, and I went ahead and turned it a little bit, and I realized, hold on, before I go too far, I need to get on here. So I've got this sitting again at a size 9, or as close to it as I can get, because it's just, the band does not want it to cooperate. But I am at a size 9, or pretty doggone close, okay? And now, trying to keep the weave flat. You want to keep this piece turned up, and then kind of make an eye shape is what I am going for. What I am going for. Ha ha ha, pun. Not really. But gonna try to get this to about there. So about an eye shape, something about like that. Let's make sure we are still, yep, we're close. We're close, that's okay. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to want to take our beads, and we're gonna set the largest one in the center, and then the smaller ones to either side. So this is where it's going to be a little tricky, because something else that we have to do as well is secure either one of these ends down. Excuse me. So we got to kind of open this up just a tiny bit. And then what you also want to do is find where you want to secure these wires at. So I think we're going to go with here if we can. And this right here, actually, I didn't put this on the supply list because I wasn't thinking. You will probably need an awl or something like that that has a pretty, doesn't have to be a sharp tip, but something that has a pretty good tip to it. You could possibly even use, let's see if I've got it, yeah. A very small flathead screwdriver that, you know, it might be messed up like this one. This one's not perfect. It's messed up. So this one would be good to use for that. But since I have my awl, I'm going to use it. And I'm going to come in. I was thinking about coming in actually right here. But I think instead that I will come in right here. And what you want to do is you want to get the tip of it between the second and the third wire. And you want to just make a space. And please, if you are using an awl, if you're using anything like this that does have a sharp tip to it, please, please, please be very careful and be very mindful with what you are doing. I don't know how many times I've used this thing and done something just like this and then gashed my finger in. Just, oh, it's not very pleasant. I can say that. So I'm going to take the centermost wire and I'm going to feed that through. And here again is where your pliers will come in handy. Maybe. Or you can just force it just like I just did. Or you can use both like this. But you want to get that to go through and go all the way as much as it will go. So that is going to also mean bending the wire a bit more to go in. Okay, and I'm going to bend this one straight so it'll actually hopefully go a little further. Come on, come on, because I want this to be fairly tight. Which is going to be quite difficult. And please remember that this I'm making this up as I'm recording, so this is a new thing for me as well. I've never done this, so just kind of try to get that to be fairly flat. All right, and I think I'm pretty well happy with that. Now I'm going to go ahead, and I probably will regret this, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip this to about there. And I'm going to cut there where I have a little space. Okay, you can see where I have a little space between the end so that it will come up and go around and be flat against the back of the weave. So I'm going to come in right about here. Okay. And I'm going to flatten that wire down so that hopefully, yep, you can't even tell it's there. Yay. So now what you can do, if I was you, right now we're going to leave these because we may could use them as a decoration. You may decide to wrap it against the other part of the ring, what have you, you know. So I'm going to come in one more time again to right here, create a space. Be very careful. And I'm trying to get it in this gap right here. Okay. And there's my gap, if you can see. Pretty good little gap. Separate my wires. Get the middle wire. Get it in there and get it to go. Come on. Sometimes you gotta coax it. You gotta talk to it. I do. And it's not wanting to cooperate. I'm not entirely sure why. Let's see. I know that. Oops. I keep hitting this and I don't mean to. So I'm gonna try. I gotta get this wire out of the way along with this one. Alright. So hopefully, maybe, let's see. I know I need to straighten this wire out a bit. This part of the wire, I should say. And there, it's moving a little bit more, okay. And I normally, if I'm working, I normally will either just have the TV on in the background or just have YouTube going with some music or something. And it's, I wish I could hear. I wish I could hear. I do enjoy listening to Foo Fighters and Breaking Benjamin and some rock music like that. But, you know, for the sake of YouTube, I can't. They won't let me. Feeding this in. I'm going to get this wire up and out of the way. There we go. There we go. Get that to go pretty well. Alright, so before I cut that one off, I'm going to kind of get that wire out of the way a bit. And be mindful that I am keeping this part of the ring where this groove is. So it's actually turning out quite a bit smaller, so I'm going to force it right there so that hopefully it will keep its size. So now, again, I'm going to go ahead right here, right now, and I'm going to cut, let's see, where's that? I'm going to cut to right there. So hopefully you can see. But you cannot. There we go. So there's that. And I'm actually going to cut it just a little bit closer to that than that. Okay, so that's my spare wire. And again, I'm going to come in and get it to where it goes right there. Can't even feel it. So that's awesome. So that's how it is so far. Okay. Again, we're just going to leave these wires. Okay. So I see I haven't done a great, super great job of my eye shape. But again, you know, this is like the first time I'm making this. So, gotta bear with me a little bit. So here's this. This is, what are we going to do with this? Let's see. I'm going to actually bring it up in between. Let's see. I'm actually going to pull this wire through here. All right. Now I'm going to come in from behind and I'm going to feed this through this space right there. Hopefully you can see that. Which, if you find that you don't have enough space right there, again, you can use your awl and you can make the space. You can make it work. Force it. And then just pull your wire through. Okay. And you see, I'm just using my nail to get that weaving wire to kind of get out of the way and kind of hide, which is not, there we go. There we go. There we go. Get it really good and tight. Okay. So you almost can't see that. Like, you would have to be looking for that in order to see it. Which actually something that you can do is this right here, kind of get it to bend like that and then tighten it up. So I'm actually going to feed it back through this way. Because essentially I want a bead right here, I want a bead right here, I want a bead right here. Okay. And actually, I think that this weave actually would probably look, this ring would probably look really awesome with a stone, kind of like that. If this was just a little bit smaller, that would probably look awesome, but obviously it's too big. But that's okay. Let's see, and I'm actually thinking about feeding that through one more time in that same spot. Get the wire to cooperate with me. Sometimes you may have to do that. You may have to use your nail or something to kind of move that wire out of the way from where it was to feed it in. So, and that gets it good and tight. Good and taut, no. I don't know. And then we're gonna, whoops, where'd it go? Right here. Alright, feed that one on there. And this one we want to sit like this. So, I see right now I'm going to have to put it through right there. And I already know I'm going to have to make a little bit of a space. So very carefully. And because this is a 28 gauge, it won't need a whole lot of room, but you will want a little bit. And careful not to let your wire get tangled up. Okay. And then back up and around, because you don't want to get a kink kind of like that. That's the start of a kink, and those are very annoying. And I'm going to see if it'll fit back through one more time, because you always want to make sure that it's on there really well. Let's see, get through. Go, 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 go. No, it ain't. See, it did that. No. And I'm working with, you can see I'm only working with a few inches of wire, so I don't really want to cut this off if I don't have to splice in more, because at this point it would be a little difficult to splice in more wire. So I'm just going to straighten that out so it's pretty well straight. And, you know, if you have to, don't be ashamed to come back in with that awl. Wiggle it around, make a little space, feed it on through. Okay. Yay. Alright. Get it good and tight. Now we're going to want this wire to come up and come out somewhere in this vicinity. Excuse me. So it looks like the only spot that there is would be to have it come in right in here. So again, and I'll keep hitting the camera. Again, gonna come in, open the space up. Doesn't have to be a lot. Okay. You want it to feed around at least twice so that it's fairly secure. Okay. Now from here, I'm going to take your larger bead, or I'm taking my larger bead, and that's going to want to go like this, in between the band. Alright. Now at this point, this bead is, the wire is sitting over the work. Ooh, if I can get online. This bead, the wire is sitting over. Well, this one, the wire is underneath. Okay, so what you could do is you could kind of feed it through where it goes over instead, but that's completely up to you. That's your choice. And I think for this, I think I will have it go over, so that hopefully it'll look better. And I see now I could probably stand to use a bead on a small like seed bead on either side. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find a seed bead and I will be right back. Alright, so I found two little just clear seed beads, you know, that are about the same size, because I don't do beading a lot. This is about the only time I use beading beads, is if it's with wire work. So I don't have a vast selection or anything. So I think that actually would work out pretty well, because it's going to help it to sit up a bit more. I think it'll turn out pretty good. So now we want to come in one more time to right here, open this space up. feed the wire through. And I'm actually going to go ahead and feed it up this way. And you also want to be mindful when you do this where this bead is at. Because you don't want it to sit up underneath with your wire. It just wouldn't quite be right. But you also want to make sure that this one sits about at the same level as that one is. So on the same in line, something like that. And then I'm going to feed this one back through one more time. And this one I'm going to have coming down and out. Okay. And pull that tight. Okay. And the reason why I'm doing that is because now, since I've only got this much wire left on this side, and I still don't have a lot left on this one, I'm going to go ahead and use this side of the wire, the weaving wire, to do the other bead. So I'm just going to kind of push this out of the way a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I'm actually going to feed it through about right here. So I do need to come in, I see, with my awl. Create another little space. Okay. And I'm actually going to feed this underneath first. Okay. And then I'm going to come in from here. Feed it. Make sure it doesn't get twisted. And again, I'm going to come in 2 times. Minimum of 2 times is what I do. Minimum. You can do 3. It's probably better if you did 3 at least. But if I at least do 2, I feel better about it. Pull that nice and tight. Make sure it's good and tight right there. And then just come in with your last bead. Get it in there. So about right there, like that. And then this one's going to come in, and I can see, I don't know how well you can see, but right here, there's already a nice little gap. It's already waiting. So that's awesome. I don't have to do, well, maybe I do. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. Not too bad. And then at this point, because my wire actually is getting quite short. Both of them have gotten quite short. So I would actually suggest that if you are watching this before you make it, probably use just a little more than, probably use an 1.5 arm wingspan of wire. I don't measure my weaving wire because you use so much. And my ruler, honestly, is not long enough. And I, look at there, I pulled it so tight that I broke that off. Oh, Lord. So, let's see. I wonder how much, oh, good. I still have that. Good, good, good. Okay. So that's okay. Because I can still do a little bit of something with this. Given I can't do a lot, but I can do a little bit. So I'm actually just going to come in right here. And the way I like to do it is leave just the littlest bit of a tail. If I leave too much, I can always just cut it down. So I don't know how much you can see. Yeah, you can see that tail a little bit right there. So I'm actually going to get it to go over where I want it. And get it to go down. And I realized I was getting off camera. To look like it's going in between. It doesn't have to go in between, but to look like it's going in between. So now at this point, I'm going to do the same thing with this, and I'm going to feed it back up. And yeah. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to trim it up. Let's see, about right there. Make it look as if it's down in there. All right. So now at this point, you can do with the extra wires whatever you may want to do. I actually really like this. This is a pretty neat looking ring. You can do swirls. You can do whatever you want. Excuse me. I think I will trim this one down to about right there. This is where round nose pliers can come in handy. And just swirl it. I like nice tight swirls. Maybe I'm weird, I don't know. Do want it to sit on the same plane, so I like that right there. And this one, I think I'm gonna feed it through once. Get it to sit good and flat on there, if it's possible. And then I think that's all I'll do with that one. I'll trim that up to right there. Come in with these suckers again. Just because you don't want too many swirls. Maybe not everybody likes swirls. Okay. I cannot feel that in, so that is wonderful. Alright, so now I'm trying to think. So the inside, so we're going to do this one about the same. Yeah, about right there. Just what I'm doing. You don't have to do this part. You could always just cut it off really short and just hope that nobody can tell. Swirl it around. Just a little bit of decoration, you know. Get that good and tight. I'm going to lift it up just a little bit this time. Trim it to right there. Get that nice and flat. And then also I see I kind of bent my ring itself out of shape. So I'm going to pop this back on here. It doesn't really matter which direction. Let's see. I'm really close. I had to force it just a tiny bit, but I'm at a size 9, guys. I am pretty happy with that. That's a pretty gnarly ring, you know, if that's something that you like. And it did turn out pretty good. I like it. I hope you did too. I hope you enjoyed working along with me, watching this. If you have any suggestions of things that can be done better with this, please leave those in the comment section down below. And I like this, that you can kind of turn the bead a little bit, you know, if you want it to show on this side better instead or whatever. That's pretty awesome too. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I sure enjoyed making this. Thank you so much if you stuck around this long with me for this ring. And you guys, I hope you hit the thumbs up if you did like this. If you also liked, please hit the subscribe button. And like I said, questions, comments, suggestions, leave them down below. And you guys, we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.